the title of the head law enforcement officer changed from marshal to chief. And although the role has expanded, one duty has remained consistent: to ensure law and order for the citizens of Elgin.
It's time now for Fridays with the Finest, featuring Elgin's current police chief, Anna Lally, on Elgin's hometown radio station since 1949, WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM.
901 here at WRMN AM 1410 and WRMN Radio on YouTube. I don't know where the chief is. I don't think she told me that she was not going to be here this week, so this is supposed to be Fridays with the Finest here at WRMN on a Friday morning. Also, at the same time, I've been working behind the scenes here to try to restore our system, and I think we are back up on YouTube at the moment here at 9:01 on a Friday morning, so one thing is working again, but as I've restored the system, the show that's supposed to be on is here. It is going to happen right now, as the chief is here on a Friday morning at 9:01 here at WRMN AM 1410 and WRMN Radio on YouTube. So, Chief's going to settle in here, and we're going to get on with Fridays with the Finest here and tell you what's happening within the Elgin Police Department. Too much going on at one time on a Friday as we get ready for the weekend, or too much not going on at the same time. The system going down, the chief not here, but the chief is here now. Good morning, Anna Lally.
Good morning. The system is down?
System was down, but now we're back up. I had to try to fix it during that break.
Yeah, no, I've been here. I've been back in your room over there talking with the ladies about a bunch of stuff. So, normally someone comes and gets me. Usually it was Larry. Right? Larry would look out for me. You apparently are just like, hey, she's not here. She's not here. I've been here.
What do you want me to do? Chase her down?
Right, that's my point. No, so I was back there talking to the ladies, caught up in time. So
well, I couldn't go chase you down because I was working. I was trying to restore the system here. But we're back up now.
Okay, good. You're not on video though, right?
We are, but you just can't see.
We can't.
Not
see
on your screen. You can't see it.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, I am here. Yes, to talk about a couple things. From the police department, and we had a city council meeting Wednesday. We talked about, I'll talk a little bit about the Civilian Review Board. The appointments were made on Wednesday, so I want to make sure that, we kind of talk to the community and let people know what's going on. But let me talk a little bit about some events. Well, only the main event that's coming up is our open house on December 7th. So December 7th from 10 a.m. to noon, we will be having an open house at the police station. Again, it's an opportunity for the community to come in and to meet police officers, meet our professional staff, meet everybody, get to see what we do, get to see their police department. So that's kind of our big event. And then, we kind of go quiet for a little bit, for a couple months. So if anyone's around, December 7th from 10 to noon.
December the 7th. So a week from, 2 weeks from tomorrow. We'll get Thanksgiving out of the way.
That's what we were talking about with the next week is Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, and we do have a show or we don't have a show?
We are. I'm not going to be here, but I think some guys are going to fill in for me, like maybe Dino.
Okay, got it. And is Steve coming next Friday?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
But it's the following. It's
the following week.
The 6th, I believe, of December.
Okay.
A Friday. When Steve's not going to make it, so we're going to have a full hour of our show that day.
Okay, that's the day that I was asked. So, yes, I will be here next Friday then. So,
okay. Dino likes to talk to you.
Oh, here we go.
He does.
I know. Are you jealous now? Are you upset now?
No.
Dino's going to be Larry Jones?
I don't know. Is he going to replace Larry Jones as your favorite?
You can't replace Larry Jones.
No.
You can't replace him. No,
I'm going to become number 3, though. I'm going to become, is Larry Jones, Dino, and then I slipped to number 3 on the charts.
Yeah, probably. Maybe even 4.
4? Who else is
I
in
like
there?
Sonar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so maybe that's maybe you're number 4.
Okay.
But that's okay, right? You're in the top 5.
Top 5.
You
I'll
can't
take
beat
it.
that.
Take what I can get.
Is there anyone else that works here that I can meet?
I'll keep on slipping down the charts, yeah.
All right, Mark, you're number 1. You know that. We've been on the show.
We've been
for
through a
while.
lot, Chief.
We have. There you go.
Yeah.
You too. Okay, so I want to also talk a little bit about, we made 2 arrests this week for some shooting cases.
We did.
That's been posted on our Facebook page too. I think there were, did you see it? Or
I saw the one.
Yeah, so we So on October 22nd, we had just a shots fired, so no one was struck, but it was a shots fired investigation in the 1100 block of Pegwood. This week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I did
So
see
this
that one.
week, we arrested a person. They were charged with aggravated discharge of a firearm. They were transported to the Cook County Jail on Tuesday of this week for a pretrial detention hearing, and the person was detained. There were two people that were also two people arrested in that incident. One was detained and one was released pending future court dates.
Yeah.
So it took about a month to wrap that case up, but detectives worked really hard. They do a really great job. So I'm glad that we were able to bring a conclusion to that case.
I know, I'm not sure, well, maybe you are, an expert on how all of the Safety Act rules work and don't work or whatever. But when you see two people get arrested and one gets released and the other one gets detained, is that because maybe one was more responsible for that particular offense, or is it because one maybe has a worse background and therefore should be detained while the other doesn't have a past, same type of past?
All those factors
Yeah.
are taken into account by the judge who ultimately makes that decision. So some of the things that you mentioned are considered. So mitigating factors, aggravating factors, their involvement in the incident themselves. So that all that is taken into consideration.
Okay.
So the other arrest was made. So we had an incident that occurred on November 19th in the 400 block of South Belmont. It was a report of a shooting. When the officers arrived on scene, there was an adult female subject, non-life-threatening wound. And there was a person who remained on scene that was taken into custody at that time. And we charged that person, and they went to their pretrial detention hearing yesterday, and they were detained. And so that person was charged with several aggravated battery with a firearm, Class X offenses, aggravated discharge of a firearm, possession of a firearm by a street gang member, possession of a firearm by a felon, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, and then 2 counts of domestic battery. So, and again, when it takes a little bit of time. Some of the cases are, there's not much to do in terms of an investigation, and some investigations take a month, some take several months. So those 2 arrests were made this week. Very good work by the detectives and officers. I want to thank them for their work, and thank you to the community for being patient with us. It's always good to come here and say here's some resolve of some cases.
Yeah.
But that leads me to where we're at year to date. So year to date, we are at 62 incidents. And last year at this time, we were at 48.
Yeah.
So we ended, if you remember, 2020 had 63 incidents. Well, actually, it was 2016. We had 62. These are our high years. 2016, 62. 2020, 63. 2021, 66.
Yeah.
And then we went down a couple. So we're at 62 year to date. Of those 62 cases, 15 are still under investigation. And I've talked many times on the show what that means. That means that there's still some investigative component taking place. And that could be waiting for evidence from the lab. That could be reviewing video. That could be waiting for witnesses. All these investigative things that detectives and officers do. 47 have been closed in some way, shape, or form. 17 where arrests have been made. 2 were on murder-suicides that took place. 2, there were declined prosecution by the state's attorney's office, and the rest remain unsolved. So 26 of our 62 cases remain unsolved. And when we say unsolved or that they've been closed, again, all investigative mechanisms and methods have been exhausted. And unless some new information comes up, they probably will remain unsolved.
Now, you also, when you've been mentioning these stats, haven't you also at times mentioned how many that you believe to be gang-related?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think the last time the analysis was done was a couple of weeks ago. It's 33% of these shots fired incidents we believe to be gang-motivated, gang-related. And again, we're able to determine that because we're making arrests. We're speaking to witnesses. We're saying, we can with certainty say that this is tied into some type of gang motivated. And then there are some that you'll never know, right? Of those 26 unsolved cases, You'll never know if they're gang motivated, if it's just personal conflict, or if it's just someone just shooting a gun up into the air. Like, we will get that on New Year's Eve, right? So when people, 4th of July, people are celebrating and they shoot a gun up in the air. Sometimes arrests are made on that, but it's just, I don't really know what you would call that motive other than something that you shouldn't do.
Right.
Right.
Celebrating in a weird way.
We'll call it. We won't call it celebrating. You
They
shouldn't
might be
do
thinking
that.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they might be thinking that, right? There's no intent to harm anyone in terms of shooting at someone. But unfortunately, what people don't realize a lot of times is when you shoot a gun up into the air, the bullet comes down somewhere, and we've had cases like that.
Yeah.
I remember years ago there was a case where it just missed somebody by an inch. I mean, so. This is reckless and again, if we do make an arrest, we will charge someone with reckless conduct, discharge of a firearm, depending on their status. If they're a gang member, do they have a FOID card? So, but sometimes you don't know because you can't. There's no video, there's no witnesses, there's nothing except a shell casing. So
Yeah. So have you? So 33% this year are deemed to have some sort of gang ties to them. Have you been keeping the same stats like this for the last several years?
we can. And I think that's something when Ryan Drake and I, so the crime analyst, when we do our annual report this year, which we anticipate being out the second week of January, we're going to give a little bit more context to the shots fired cases and doing that analysis in terms of, we believe this is related to domestic related incidents. This is related to gang. This is an unknown. We're going to do that.
Break
this
it down
year
even further?
And break it down even further.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good for the community to, have that information and kind of, understand what's going on, right? It's and understand that when we do make arrests and we are able to say what a motive is, those are great cases, right? And it puts closure on stuff, but sometimes we're not going to be able to give the community that because there's nothing further that we can do unless someone or some new information comes forward.
But if we have the further breakdown, then, if suddenly we have 60, let's say, shots fired, 20 of them, I'm just throwing out random numbers here, 20 are gang related, 20 are domestic violence related, and 20 are whatever else. And then you compare it to years past,
Yes.
then you can say, well, yeah, shots fired are up, but it's because domestic violence is up.
Yes. Yes. And that's why giving a little bit more context, our gang membership, and when we identify a person who's involved in a gang, there's certain criteria that we have to fit by law through the state of Illinois. So I'd say this is a verified gang member, someone who is actively involved in the gang membership, in furtherance of the gang, so they're committing offenses. So our gang membership has gone down over the years, and we're also going to do a little bit of snippet of that information too. So in terms of, some of them, when I was hired in 1996, and I will tell you the gang membership was not like it is today, right? And that's through our community policing efforts. People age out of the gang, or they go to prison, right? And they serve some significant time. So, we're also doing things to try to influence, young kids' behaviors because, gangs are recruiting at an early age. So you want to do something to counter that. So that's our YEP program. So doing something where we're giving outlets and doing some preventive, maybe there's a kid who's in school and, they're thinking about it. They're hanging around with some kids. They're displaying some behaviors that's concerning to the parents. So we try to do some intervention there and say, what is going on? What can we do to try to steer that person away from gang involvement? So all these different strategies help to reduce people who are involved in gangs. And there's also the enforcement side, right? There's, some of our gun cases are tied to gang membership, right? So now you have to think about where are the guns coming from and what can we do to affect some of that? So there's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of things, we just this week, talking with members of our special investigations group, talking with my commander, and just kind of thinking, and this conversation has been constantly been going on. What can we do here? What can we do there? Sometimes it's the public education component of letting people know the information, which, I do every Friday unless I have some guest on that, I don't want to waste their time talking about that. But it's important that the community knows. And again, all this information is on our transparency site in terms of the arrests, cases, report numbers, if you're curious about it, locations, all that's out there for the community.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, it's come way down from 1996. But I wonder if it's like going back up a little bit in the last couple of years.
No, I would tell you too that just on a, and again, we'll put this in our annual report and dive deeper, but, just a preliminary analysis by Ryan in terms of what percentage of reports do we take with gang members. It's a very small report percentage compared to everything that's going on in the city. So we're going to put that information out to the community, let them see it, let them know. Again, I'm always open to questions. It's important to me that people have the right information. They ask the questions as they should. We are accountable to the community, but I also want them to know we are working on it. Here are the things that we're doing. Here's where we need some help. And overall, when officers do make arrests and detectives make arrests, they work very hard to make sure that, the sentiment in the police department, and they know, is we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make arrests in these cases and to get guns off the street. So that's a philosophy in the department that, I want the community to know that it's important. We want people to have a safe community. So, and again, over 67,000 calls for service, I think was the last time I checked. It was roughly around there. Think about all the incidents that happened in the city of Elgin, right? And this portion, 62 incidents are related to some type of gunfire. And of those incidents, we're making arrests. And some of them, are tied to domestic related incidents. So it's really, the numbers are the numbers, right? And if all you say is 33% of this, but then talk a little bit about, well, what does that mean, right? We have 62 shots fired. Okay, but what does that mean? Like, what type of cases are there? That's where the conversation is important. It's not just the number, right? If I just give you crime stats and I just say 8% this, you're going to, okay, well, what's going up? What's going down? What's happening? Is it domestic related? So that's the purpose of talking about it, answering questions, and putting that information out to the community.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So on Wednesday, and I'm sure Councilman Thorne will probably talk about it on his radio show. I don't know if he is. On Wednesday, we had the Civilian Review Board was basically finalized. And so I just want to give just a little snippet to the community of what's happening, what's been happening. So when we had the task force on policing many years ago, there were 26 recommendations made by the community task force on policing. And those recommendations were given to us in September of 2022. And since then, all except, I believe, 2 recommendations have been completed. And so, and this is another thing, if anybody wants to see the status of the recommendations, you can go to our transparency hub, scroll down to, on the top, it's professional standards. Click that, scroll down, and you'll see Community Task Force on Policing recommendations. There's a report in there, and you can see all the recommendations that were made and what we've done. One of those recommendations was to create a civilian review board. And so in March of 2023, that recommendation went in front of the council. And on August 14th of 2024, the council had a resolution making appointments to the Civilian Review Board Selection Committee. So an ordinance was in place. Part of the ordinance is there's a selection committee that's formed. And the selection committee then was tasked with interviewing people who applied to the Civilian Review Board.
Yeah.
The selection committee was, it was me, Officer Josh Miller, who's the president of the police union, and then 3 community members who also sat on the task force of policing. So that was Walter Blaylark, Carol Bailey, and Ishmael Cordova. So they actually sat on the police task force, and they sat then on the selection committee. So over the past couple months, the selection committee met. Just to give the community some information, there were 26 people who, hold on, let me make sure that's right. 27 people. 27 people who actually applied to be on the Civilian Review Board. So we advertise, I talked about it on the radio show, the council's talking about it. 27 people applied. 6 people did not meet the qualifications per the ordinance. 1 person withdrew their name, so that left us with 20 people. Of those 20 people, we interviewed 19. One person did not show up. So we interviewed 19 people.
Okay.
And out of those 19, 9 people were appointed. The 19 people that did apply, 13 were males, 6 were females. And of that, the final selection, there are 3 females and 6 males on the Civilian Review Board.
Which is about the same breakdown
Yeah,
as the number that applied.
yeah. So it's about the same.
2 to 1, yeah.
So the next step in this process is that we will now train the Civilian Review Board. So these 9 members will, we're planning to do this towards the end of January so everyone can enjoy their holiday season here.
Yeah. Because it's going to be some training.
It's going to be some training. So
Yeah.
it's going to be 2 days of training, everything from collective bargaining agreements. So, our police union and then our union that represents our telecommunicators, our community service officers. We are going to have an attorney come in and do some review on case law as it relates to arrest, search, and seizure. Case law related to use of force, our response to resistance policy, what our response to resistance looks like, de-escalation topics, everything from fair and impartial policing to CIT, which is crisis intervention, to something that we utilize called ICAT, which is integrating communications assessment and tactics. So all this stuff that we do, because it's important that these 9 people understand what we do. On top of it, they're going to get some equipment demonstrations. They're going to go on our simulator, shoot, no shoot scenarios. They're also going to learn about the internal process. How do internal investigations work? Why is it that, if an officer is accused of misconduct that could be criminal in nature, why a majority of the time do we wait for the criminal investigation to conclude? There have been some instances where I have not waited for that. One example is the officer that was arrested for child pornography.
Yeah.
I did not wait to the conclusion of any criminal investigation. We just moved forward with the administrative investigation to speed the process up. So there are times where the significance of the matter may require a different method. But generally, so people understand, and especially if they're going to be reviewing cases, they need to understand, what do police officers do in this type of situation? What
Yeah.
is the normal procedure? What are the rules and regulations, the policies? What guides them? It's important. It's going to be 2 days. It's going to be from 8 to 4 every day. It's, working lunches. We have a lot of stuff to cover. It's going to be on a Saturday and Sunday. Additionally, they have to do a ride along with a police officer. So, we have to make sure that they, do a significant amount of hours, whether that's a 8-hour day or if it's a 4-hour and 4-hour, but I would like them to do an entire shift, and see actually what it's like to be a police officer and see some of the decisions that they have to make very quickly. This is one of probably a few professions where you do not have the luxury sometimes to analyze, think
Right.
about it,
Hit the pause button.
hit the pause, call a friend, phone a friend.
Yeah.
You can't do that in some situations. So, in this job, minus probably a couple others in the world, most people have the luxury of time. And it's important to me that people understand that, the officers are not robots. They are trained the same across the board. And we have a lot of young officers. The police department is a very young department, so there's a lot of learning that goes on. Really a police officer is not comfortable, and we see it, just in terms of, their knowledge and their training. You talk about 5 years for an officer to feel comfortable, right? And then it's still so much learning because laws change, things change. And so we have to equip them with the right training, knowledge, encouragement, best equipment, best training, and then we expect them to perform at a very high level. And that's what the community expects. That's what I expect. So I think it's important that community members who sit on the Civilian Review Board see that, and they see the professionalism of the department, and understand that, officers are human, right? Sometimes they make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes are career ending, and sometimes those mistakes are course corrections. They're learning, right? So it's not easy. And as I talked about with the Civilian Review Board, the point of contention throughout the whole conversation was, who has the final say on discipline? And when it was recommended to the council, there were two it was some people said, well, let the chief have that final say, and some people said have the civilian review board. And my position the entire time was the input that the civilian review board wants to give me is great, right? This is what we suggest. This is what we think. The other side to that, though, is, when I make a disciplinary recommendation or decision, I'm working with our legal department, and ultimately my decision is approved by the city manager. And to make a disciplinary decision, you have to have training, knowledge, experience, been involved in disciplinary matters, because eventually if an officer decides to go to an arbitration hearing or if there's litigation, I'm the person that has to sit there and handle all that. So I have to ensure that everything is done appropriately. So when you tell people the heaviness of that decision that you are making that could drastically alter someone's life, that's a lot of stuff. And I don't think your everyday person wants that, especially when they're not getting paid, wants that responsibility, right? So it's
they might want it, but they don't really want it.
That's what
they might think they want it.
As a person who has done it, I can tell you, that's part of my job, my position.
Yeah.
But you have to do things the right way, and it can't be based off of your emotion, or there's the legality, the policy, the procedure, understanding, case law, understanding the law, understanding there's so much involved in it, past practice, disciplinary, there's a lot. So, prior to the Civilian Review Board being formed, especially when we have high profile cases, it's not uncommon for community members to tell me what they would like to see happen. So this is just a more formalized process by which that would take place. So I think it's also, having, the way we did it, having the selection committee and having the union involved, which was something that I also asked for, and doing this in a productive way, and doing this in a way that, does not become divisive, although people have their opinions on both sides. But we are where we are, and this is what's happening, and we want to make sure that it's done the right way, and part of that is giving people the right training. That's our responsibility, right? So when they do make their recommendations, that it's grounded in some knowledge.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's good. For lack of a better way of describing it, toughening them up a little bit in a way by you're kind of doing the best you can to make them know enough or a little bit about enough things that take place in the police department on a daily basis. You're saying that police officers don't even become comfortable after 5 years. So after 16 hours of training to learn all about these different facets of the Elgin Police Department, it's still not going to be enough, but at least it's some. At least it's some.
And if we notice too that there's something that the Civilian Review Board says, hey, we want to learn more about A, B, or C, we're going to be offering those opportunities, right? And I think it's important, and it's especially as this Civilian Review Board gets started, that people understand, the history, how we got here, what's involved, all this stuff. So, I'm glad that I'm able to be here now while this is starting, because, to give people that backstory, but also to tell people of just how great the police department is. And the men and women, we're not perfect people, but they work very hard. And, we've done a lot of programs, whether it's CCSU, ESD, creating YEP, all these things to better our community. So people in that building, the goal is to make it better. And so I think it's important that, community members know that too, right? And sometimes what was is not what is. And it doesn't mean you forget it. It doesn't mean you don't acknowledge it. It just means we move forward together for the future of the police department, for the future of the community, right? We move together. We move with each other and together, hopefully, for a better department, a better community. So more to come with that, but I wanted to talk about it because it was just on the council Wednesday. But I know my time is up here. It's 9:30, so I will be here next Friday. Mark is going to be MIA apparently, right?
Yeah.
Are you on vacation?
Yes, I'm taking a Thanksgiving weekend
Good for
vacation.
you.
I'm going to go to Colorado.
There you go. Well,
Yeah.
Enjoy your vacation and your Thanksgiving, and I will be back next week. So I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, and I will be back on Friday.
Yeah, thanks, Chief, for everything.
Thank you.
That's Chief Anna Lally checking in. Better late than never. She's not paying attention, thankfully, to what I'm saying.
What did you say? Better
said
late,
better
than,
late
never.
than never.
I heard you. I'm
Yeah.
ignoring you. I have selective ignoring hearing.
I'm dropping down on the friends list.
Hey, you know
That's
what?
you get.
Number 12.
Steve Thoren's next with the Senior Community Spotlight Show. Keep it right here on WRMN on a Friday.
Everyone has a community to lean on.